Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Author Tells. We have Hope Bolinger, our very own author. Hi Hope, it's so nice to have you on the Author Tells. And why don't you start by telling our viewers a little bit about yourself and where you're from and your writing journey?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Hope. I am, as of next Monday, going to be an acquisitions editor at a publishing house. So that's been my dream since I was 16. So I'm super excited to be diving into that. I am also a writer. I also, in my free time, like to do some local runway modeling, tennis, hiking, and taking care of my super high maintenance cat who may or may not show up. I don't know. Um, in my writing journey, I've always been writing, but it kind of started roughly when I was 16. I had a friend in high school who liked to write books, and I thought this friend was crazy because who does that? And so, as friends do, I decided to give it a try, and I haven't looked back since. I've been kind of going full force with everything I can in the publishing world since then.
Yes, that's right. Hope has her feet in, like she has her fingers in all sorts of places in the publishing world. She's been an agent, now an acquisitions editor. I mean, that's great. But to talk specifically today about like your writing and Hope Bollinger as an author, I would say. So you have two series with us. One is the Virtually in Love series, and one is After. Why don't you tell the audiences a little bit about it, those who haven't read it, or what's it about?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Virtually in Love and After are both kind of short story collections. So, a number of different stories where they kind of follow the same thread. So, in Virtually in Love, it's all love stories that are told over computer, over technology medium. Us kind of living in pandemic times, I've heard so many stories of people who are able to find, their soulmate over a dating app or over, gaming or just kind of over any technological medium. So I wanted to kind of take really sweet romance stories and add a little bit of a modern twist. And then After is modernized fairy tales. And so some are very famous, some are a little bit more obscure, but I kind of take those and see what they would kind of look like now. And those are the two story collections that I have with Saga.
Yes. And why don't you tell us what was your inspiration for each of them individually? How did both of these stories come about?
Yeah, so Virtually in Love, I think, was the first one I wrote. And I was thinking about many of my friends who were telling me successful stories where they had found someone virtually. And I was thinking I didn't see that a whole lot done in fiction. And I kind of wanted to see what that would look like, seeing all kinds of different technology innovations that we've had recently and how that can usher in a romantic relationship. So that was kind of the inspiration for that one. And for After, I've always been obsessed with fairy tales. I one time was Belle from Beauty and the Beast for like an interactive party thing. So I've always been obsessed with princesses and fairy tales. But some of them, like you look at the origins of them, they're kind of a little crazy, like some of the things that happen in them. So I wanted to kind of see like how we could redeem some of those scarier, kind of weirder elements, but also who doesn't love a good fairy tale story? So I kind of wanted to see what it looks like right now.
Ah, yes. I mean, some of the stories, like I remember, especially during Virtually Love, reading, them, and they're so sweet and they're so cute, but at the same time, they're like some of like the time traveler one where she invents a time machine and she sort of because she's just so bad at dating apparently, and she invents a time machine to go back every minute and then redo it, and she realizes that she just has to be herself. I think that was a very, very interesting concept, and that's not something that we'd have. But I mean, like, how did that come about? That specific story. That's my personal favorite. But
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So first of all, I was so happy that y'all were open to me doing speculative elements because like I'm kind of in my element if I can throw in a few out of this world sort of things in there. So kind of basically what happens in the story, as you mentioned, is a woman who's just not had good luck on dates invents a time
mhm,
machine. And so she keeps trying to redo her virtual date with this guy, trying to like make sure it's the perfect thing. And anytime she messes up, she's like, all right, let's restart this. Um, So, I mean, I've definitely had my number of first dates gone wrong where you kind of afterwards think about everything that you could have done differently. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the person that you're meant to be with is going to love you, flaws and all. And
Yes.
so, yeah, as you mentioned, the kind of moral of the story was that it's okay to mess up. People are going to kind of understand that we're all nervous on that first date.
That's right. And what about the characters? Any specific characters that you like or that are inspired from real life or any for both stories? Anything specific that you want to tell the audiences about?
I'm trying to think because I mean, I definitely think a lot of these were based on either friends who've either just had not good luck with relationships or people who are wanting to find that kind of fairy tale ending. So I don't know if any specific characters kind of played into either my own relationships or friends. I'm sure it kind of seeped into a lot of the stories.
Right.
I will say a kind of fun Easter egg is I have a friend named Sonia, and so there is a story in Virtually in Love where there was a hitman who was hired to kill her, but he couldn't go through with it, and so they end up like together. But my friend Sonia, I just was like, I'm going to throw her into a story, and so I'm sure she thinks it's hilarious that she is in the hitman story.
Oh gosh! I mean that's another story that was absolutely baffling at what, like, when I first started reading it, I was like, wait, where's this going? And then I'm like, oh my god, that is so cute. That, I mean, the concept and the ideas for the entire series, not just for Virtually in Love, but as well as after, they're so simple, but at the same time so convoluted that it's hard to like sort of wrap your mind around it. But at the same time, you can't sort of not. You have to like it. It's just amazing. Yeah, definitely. And I feel some of the characters are. I think they're so. How do I say? How do I put it? Like, you can see these characters going about in their day-to-day lives and just sort of spending time, and then at the same time there's someone who's on like a soulmate app talking to like a ghost who is their soulmate. I mean, that's just amazing. So what was even for after, what was when you were writing it, or when you were sort of in the middle of it, because they're really short. They're about 1,000 words. So how do you compact all of that into 1,000 words?
Now, this is a really good question because short stories actually super intimidate me. I know I've mentioned this on like a previous interview that we've had on here, but they actually like really intimidate me because I'm used to, sitting down and writing like 60,000 to 80,000 word books. And so to be able to compact a whole short story it is definitely intimidating. I think you have to like know before you start what's going to happen. I definitely plotted all of these. I pants things before. I've done things like from like The Fly before, but not for these just because I want it to be very linear, very like this is like the message we're getting across for the story, and we can't spend a whole lot of time on other details. So I did definitely kind of plot them ahead of time. I kind of had like a 3 act structure that I wanted to happen in every single story. And I kind of knew like there was like a certain word count that we needed to hit for each structure. I do this for like my other romance books too. I know it sounds like super technical, but it works. Like it kind of helps me with pacing. So that's kind of like what I would do, but I would have to like come up with the idea first because I wanted to find a way to modernize them, but in an unexpected way. I didn't just want to like follow the story kind of as we know it. I wanted to take like what was the essence of the story, but put it into something, that people really wouldn't necessarily expect for that specific one.
Oh, wow. Yes, that's a very interesting process. I mean, especially given that you've written longer forms and this was like a sort of experiment new for you, and compacting it. And to tell the viewers a little behind the scenes for it, this was actually supposed to be chat stories, and we sort of converted it into longer forms. And I loved it so much that we have had Hope write more and more of those. So yeah, which actually brings me to the genre bit. And since is romance like your go-to genre? Is that something that you've always wanted to write, or was that a rediscovery of sorts, or is that something that you plan on writing ahead as well?
This is a super good question because I was super against the romance genre for the longest time. Back in like high school, I was like, oh, it's so predictable and we all know they're going to be happy at the end and all this stuff. And then, of course, I have a co author and we decided to write like a superhero chat fiction romance together. And I once again got bit by the bug and I just fell in love with the genre. I'm a hopeless romantic at heart. So I think I just kind of had to embrace it a little bit. So now, like, everything I write pretty much has a romantic angle. This wasn't where I expected to go, but honestly, it's just so much fun, and it feels so it's so happy to just write happy stories. So yeah, I guess I fully leaned into the genre. I wasn't thinking this was where I was gonna go, but here we are.
Wow, and I mean, it turned out to be amazing, didn't it? Like, I mean, all feel good stories. I mean, writing it, I'm sure, was amazing. At the same time, for readers as well, they're so fun and they're so cute. So, yeah, for sure. I think a couple of last few questions about more generic bits is we've spoken about your writing process, especially for Virtually in Love and After. But any tips and tricks that you would like to give our authors, or anything special that you'd like to tell our audience about, your writing process in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think I really appreciated you mentioning earlier about experimenting because you may find a genre that you didn't expect you'd love, or you may find a sort of writing style that, I mean, I've definitely found this in my process. I would have never ventured into romance had I not given it a try. So my best suggestion is always to have fun with it and just to keep trying new things. You're gonna get so many people who tell you these are the strict rules you have to follow, and you can't have like adverbs and you can't have this, and like just ignore those things for the time being when you get started and just have a lot of fun with it because writing is supposed to be the fun part of the whole process. I mean, every part of the process is fun, but like writing is supposed to be like the most fun part of it. So that's the best advice I can give is just, be you and just have fun.
That's amazing advice. Yes, as a writer, it's just about pouring your heart out. I guess that's a way to put it. And I think lastly, I'd like to ask you any books that you've recently read on the app and would like to recommend.
Yeah, so I have read some chapters. I haven't been able to dive fully into it, but Famous in Love definitely so fun. Yeah, that especially. I think this has been like a fan favorite amongst like all the authors, especially like that. But I mean, like there's so many cool ones I'm seeing coming up and like new episodes that I mean, I suggest like all of them, but that one probably has to be like my top one at the moment that I'm just really enjoying.
You're a true romantic. I can say by the choice. Okay, I think that was a lovely, lovely conversation. Thank you so much, Hope. And I hope that our readers and viewers enjoyed this. And those who have already read Virtually in Love and After, go and read those right after this interview. Thank you. Thank you so much, Hope.
Thank you for having me.